Yeah, Avantika, do the toss. Just wait while the recording starts. Uh, Lydia, let us know when the recording starts. Oh, okay. So heads is for dark matter and tails is for pulsars. Go ahead, Avantika. It's heads. So dark matter have won the toss. So what would you decide?
We'll go against the motion.
Okay,
You will
you
go against the motion.
against the
Yes,
motion.
sir.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Will make sense. So
All the
the
best,
Right.
guys.
dark matter
Oh,
is going to be the opposition, and prismatic pulsars are the government. So yeah,
yes, sir. All right. All the best to the other team. We're just hoping for a very good debate. Thank you so much, guys. We'll meet you in a bit.
Turn on your cameras and Avantika, share your screen. So today's debate is on the motion of is astrophysics the currently the most important field in physics. Prismatic pulsar are for the motion, and cryptic dark matter is against the motion. And I request the first speaker from the government to start. Is
Okay.
everything ready?
Can you hear me?
yes, Pinak.
Yes, Pinal.
Yeah.
Avantika,
So
everything set? Just sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All the best.
Uh, well, so there are different branches in physics, and all these different branches deal with all the different problems that arise in different situations. Right now, maths and physics might be the most important subjects for humans. And so it becomes necessary to understand what field of physics itself is also very important. Well, how do we define if a field is important or not? Any field that helps us excel as humans, enriches our knowledge, makes us understand the world around us more is very important. Well, most of the subjects in physics have saturated. There isn't much left that they can provide to us. But that's not the case with astrophysics. Astrophysics is a widely open subject, and right now it helps us in our survival as well. How? Because, well, right now we really need to understand the world around us, not just around like in the vicinity, around us in the entire galaxies and even beyond that, because the time to leave this place has begun. There are subjects in physics like environmental physics that help us for our survival as well. But sadly, the time for environmental physics has just passed now. It would have been useful in what 20th century, when we could have done something using it about the situation that are arising. Most of the environmental crises have already begun, and the next big crisis might not even be a couple of decades from now. So environmental physics as an important part of physics has just lost its time. It's not there anymore. It would have been in 20th century, but right now it's not, because environmental physics tells us how to take care of our home. But as we look around us, we know that it has already gotten too late to start taking care of our home. It's now time to look for a new home. And the understanding of the universe around us is very, very important in order to look for this new universe and the new home. And that is given by astrophysics. Astrophysics doesn't just give us a glimpse into the unknown of this universe, but it puts us in the front row and shows us all the exotic and unknown things that are there, which are necessary for our survival.
POI.
Yeah.
How do you intend to take care of a new home when you weren't able to take care of the home that you already have
Well,
since billions of years?
yeah. So that would be the time for environmental physics. But as our topic says, that we have to discuss about the topic that's important currently. So we don't have to worry about the future as of we have to worry about the current situation, and that is where astrophysics comes into play, as I've said before. Well, there are other subjects in astrophysics. Astrophysics itself isn't a particular subject. It uses all these other subjects as its tools to make us understand everything around us. So there are extreme cases in all these physical situations that are just not realizable in the labs on Earth. All these extreme cases, we can study them in celestial objects. And so astrophysics doesn't just help us understand the astrophysics subject better, but it also helps us understand all the other branches of physics better. That's why it is important. Well, another thing is there are many questions in our lives which lie in the realm of philosophy. Questions like who we are, questions like why the universe exists. If it exists, then how did it come to be? All these questions can only be answered by astrophysics. No other part of physics can even attempt to answer these questions. These questions are answered by astrophysics in a very technical and thorough way. And these questions are the ones that remain very important right now, because we have understand almost all the classical questions already. We have understand almost all the small things that were there. And now it has come time to understand these big questions. As my friends in opposition gallantly proved yesterday, that interstellar travel is real and it is not too far from us right now. We see that astrophysics is very much required for this purpose of interstellar travel that will help us to secure our survival. Again, I'll just like to say that we have very expensive experiments for astrophysics like ISS that takes what around $150 billion by NASA. Then projects like Webb telescope. Scientists are investing so much money in astrophysics because they know that this is the future. This is the time to think about astrophysics because it has become the most important thing in physics right now. And I would like to conclude there. Thank you.
Thank you, first speaker from the government. Now I request first speaker from the opposition to start.
Yep, I'm here. I'd just like to confirm if I'm audible clearly.
Yeah, just a second.
All right, I'll give you a short countdown before I'm about to begin. Just give me a few seconds, please.
Just okay.
Yep. Yep, I'll begin in 3, 2, 1. What we have simply received from side government is the answer to the questions that we already posed to them. Like from the future, you come to the present telling us how the present is more important than the future, while all of their approaches are futuristic. The point of power always lies in the present moment. In the world that we are living in today, we already have enough problems in the present that we don't want to think of futuristic things and approaches to solve the problems that are currently there. The cost of the future can never be the present. The agenda of this debate is astrophysics is the most important field in physics. Now, how do we define the agenda for you all, right? Astrophysics, like the government said, is already there, whatever it is. But there is another keyword that we need to focus on, that is important. What does importance mean? Something that is necessary and holds great value. Now we'll tell you what is necessary and what holds great value, all right? We as a civilization are facing a problem that we need to find a solution to. The talk of the town are climate change, global warming, and disasters in the nature. To give you a very short idea, US had to spend a total sum of $2 trillion till now to compensate for the damages caused by climate change. And they had to spend around $700 billion only from 2017 just to compensate for the damages caused by hurricanes and floods. The total expended expenditure to solve the issues of climate change and global warming is $50 trillion, which can't even simply be counted. And here we are talking about other celestial bodies, flying rockets, having spaces and space races and whatnot. Now, astrophysics isn't evidently the most important field in physics. Then because we are the opposition, the burden falls on us to tell you what is. We'll tell you that environmental physics is the most important field in physics right now. I'd like to tell everyone, and everyone needs to know, the future starts today and not tomorrow. And if the problems today are left unanswered, then there will be no tomorrow. We define environmental physics as the application of principles of physics. Yeah, go ahead.
So can you use past to tackle the problems of present as you're doing with environmental physics?
you're simply trying to ignore the present. It is no past, there is no future without the present that you're there in. The past is to learn from, and the present is to execute, not the future. All right. As the yellow, I have counter-presented a definition. I've given you the keywords from it. I've given you an introduction of the topic, and we are going to debate about it. I'll now provide you with a few arguments that will bolden our stance. The DLO will rebut the points stated by DAPM and provide more points, and the government opposition whip will counter all of the points stated by side government. All right. Astrophysics is important, but in the current scenario, it's only important to us here in this room talking and debating about it. All right. In the real world, we need to realize and not ignore the fact that bigger and more important problems exist. Now, us being the opposition, we'll make this astrophysics versus environmental physics and tell you why we take it over side government. All right. The first argument. Beginning with a very simple example, the Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded to Siguro Manabe and Klaus Hasselmann for physical model of Earth's climate change and quantifying variability and reliably predicting global warming. I'll tell you why it is important to agenda. During both World Wars 1 and 2, it was very clear that warfare, there was warfare everywhere. Hence, technology and engineering took precedence over the other subjects. The Cold War had taken a turn of space race, and hence there was more diversion of resources towards space technology. Being frank and fair, do wars look like the absolute best thing to decide what is the most important and what isn't? Definitely not. Therefore, it is clearly understood that in the midst of ego races and the will to conquer other land, we prioritized everything wrong so much that we ended up destroying our very own environment. And now, when we are somewhere in peace, it is important for us to realize the need of the hour, that is environmental physics and not astrophysics. The second argument. The big glorious billionaire space race that we talk about every day, right? This is somewhat the product of astrophysics, where every rich person is trying to go to space before the other, while they also blindly ignore the state in which their workers live, how much their companies pollute the environment, how humongous amount of resources they consume. I'll ignore that because I have to continue with my speech for now. I'm so sorry. How they spend humongous amount of resources just to orbit the Earth for once and come back. Our very own billionaire Jeff Bezos, one of the leading astronauts, as he calls himself, said that he had to go to space in order to realize and see the state the Earth was in. Oh dear Lord, what a wonderful idea. Why didn't I think of this? I could have simply gone to space and come back to know that Earth was in trouble, to know that all the smoke coming out from cars, all the plastic in the ocean, all the water level rising, all the icebergs melting and the climate change was actually the result and not a hoax. How convenient is this? Not everything is in space, all right? Some of it is on Earth, and if you don't turn a blind eye, you'll find it everywhere here and there, all right? The fact that you're trying to ignore is, in the current world, you're facing a massive problem, the answer to which isn't astrophysics, but environmental physics. To everyone present here, I'd like to give you a short idea. If I was a superhero and I knew that one of my weapons would work better against the supervillain, better than the other weapon, all right? Then for me, actually works would be the most important one. The other I'd like to end my speech by saying that I'm keenly aware of the principle of priority, which states, first, you must know the difference between what is visible and what is important, and second, that you must do what is important first. For even though the goals we set for ourselves might be on the other side of the horizon for now, but they'll definitely be visible someday. And if we keep working to never let that happen. I'd end my speech here and I'm proud to oppose. Thank you so much.
Thank you, first speaker from opposition. I request second speaker from the proposition to start.
So yeah, I'll start now. So I would like to make my point. I would like to make my point in broadly two terms. So first point is rather long, so I'd request you all to be patient for that. So we'll start with the discovery of the sciences, like how it happened. So when Newton was formulating his many-body theories, when he started with three-body system in the 16th century, since then we have been relentlessly pursuing a solution of the systems. Today's fast neural network system are benchmarked and tested using the three-body problem. So recent example of the system, one of the system that developed the algorithm in a very advanced way was one done by PG Green, I think in last few years. And actually, you can only check that the system by solving such problem for which a solution already exists. The physical phenomena. My point being that an idea that has 300 years in age is still relevant in today's society as in a paramount importance sort of way. So this was one example. Then the idea that we are all acquainted with of numerical simulation and model fitting in astrophysics is to the GR tests of Mercury perihelion and all that polytropic model and stuff. It inspires not only astrophysics and the way we see quantum mechanics and other sciences, but it inspires other branches of science as well. I'd like to point out that even environmental physics is highly inspired by astrophysics. I mean, we all know that through like the model fitting and the numerical techniques. The biophysics is inspired, and surgeries are. Yeah.
Well, astrophysics has also been inspired by other branches of physics, such as obviously classical mechanics and many others. So, what would you say about that?
Yes, it has been. It is a derivative of all the sciences, but then the way it has been advanced using numerical simulation and model fitting. It was not done in a mainstream age of the modern science, on the old sciences. So that is new for astrophysics, all the simulation and stuff. So moving on, so I'd like to point with this example that to see the direct consequence of a thing, like like when the need shall come, we shall go there, as pointed out by the previous speaker. I mean, that's not a very good approach, because if we see the direct consequence of a particular thing, then we can say that, okay, fine, hydrochloric acid is an acid and burns, so it is bad. But while making that statement, we completely ignore the fact that, for starters. So it is not a very good metric to judge by. I mean, for future needs, we shall turn to the future to solve it. I mean, I think we should start now. And to start now very fast. Moving on from that, so my second point would be that the problem of dark energy and dark matter. So we all know, I mean, I would like to introduce dark matter in the next few seconds for people that, that won't be acquainted with it. I'm sure that all of you are acquainted with it. So dark matter is a material that is not accounted for using classical theory or even in standard model, and it is present in the galaxy and stuff, in the cosmic stuff that we are seeing through observation. In the radial velocity curves and stuff like that, we are explained to classical physics concept that dark matter is existing and it is there. So to tackle this issue of the matter that comprises nearly 95% of our universe, we need to go to higher resources, higher than particle physics, higher than what, I mean, we can't even think about the particle, we can't even hypothesize the particle, as pointed out by recent research papers, that it is really hard to hypothesize it, using the field of particle physics. So forget about finding it. I think, and along with me, many other authors, for example, are the classical texts of Peter Schneider that referred to in last semester, highly thinks that a lot of discovery related to dark matter is done and will be done only using astrophysics. The classical theory or quantum theory doesn't matter, but that's the only way it will be done. The recent study, the most relevant cosmology I did follow, the lambda CDM model, the cold dark matter model. So that has agreed to, I think, 12th point value of the density parameters, when we did the WIMP data. I don't know the dates, but you can check. So the WIMP data, it agreed to the omega lambda value to a precision, I think. So I don't think any other branch other than astrophysics can provide such answers to our questions. And this question is it's not a bad one, since the world, if we are able to understand through a particular medium, we should, because, well, that would answer a lot of questions that might even help to some extent study the environmental physics and other branch. I mean, I'm specifying environmental because you pointed it out, and other branches, well. So I think it's necessary to study astrophysics as in a very mainstream way and in an important way. So I would like to conclude with that statement. Thanks.
Thank you, second speaker from the government. I request second speaker from. Okay, so the second speaker from the opposition to speak.
Okay, am I clearly audible? Hello?
Yes, Oliver, you are.
All right. Just a short countdown. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm Oliver Pereira, and I'm going to be the second speaker for the opposition. So just a small point that the second speaker of the government mentioned. So model fitting is also used in environmental physics. For global warming, it needed the 1D model of the atmosphere, which was proposed by Arrhenius. And by the way, this guy was a physicist, even though he made more contributions to chemistry. So let's come to the point of environmental physics. Let's talk about the funds and resources. We are currently in a climate emergency right now, and most of our funds have to be diverted towards helping victims of famines, floods, forest fires. And this is a direct consequence of the climate change which is happening. And if that isn't enough, we also need more specialists in this field. Haven't we all heard terms such as green energy, vertical farming, green architecture when talking of the environment? Haven't we heard about renewable resources of energy such as solar, wind, etc., which all require physics innovations to become more applicable uh, to the current scenario? Let's talk about the negligence on this field. In one of her speeches, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez states, "Climate change is not a coincidence or a scientific anomaly. Climate change is a consequence of our unsustainable way of life." By ignoring the facts before us, we have already seen the kind of damages which happen and the amount of loss of life and loss to the economy, which has to be borne by the governments. The NGOs which are fighting for environment have strengthened in the past decade, and now every company is careful that to show that their products do not have much impact on the environment and that they are green. Every corporation has environment lawyers and environment specialists, and there's an upsurge of new fields in environmental physics, basically, such as environmental business management, etc. So the whole point is that environmental physics is a very wide field. It is concerned with the measurement and analysis of interactions with organisms and the environment. So there's a lot that comes under it, basically. So another point is that we are already considering for the future sending astronauts to Mars for a permanent base or maybe a lunar base or whatever. But consider what we would need to make this possible. We would need to make a livable environment for the astronauts there. Consider the kind of scenes that we saw in the Martian movie, the struggles for planting the crops and all of that. So for that, we need to have a clear understanding of the Martian environment, and we cannot possibly
POI,
hope to. Yeah, sure.
why is environmental physics important then and not biology?
Well, the my third speaker will answer that question. So so we cannot really hope to understand the Martian environment unless we do not even understand the environment of Earth. What kind of specialists would we need to send over there in order to um, in order to make these sort of missions successful? We would need people who understand environmental physics. And
POI.
another.
We studied POI. So we
Okay.
studied the Mars location and stuff using. We can send probes to study the Mars environment. So what we did it in the past. So how do you justify it not doing in the present for other things, like other planets far in the universe?
Well, the whole point being that Mars can be explored later, but right now the Earth is in a crisis, and we need to understand the Earth first, and later the Mars exploration and all of that will come. Another small point that I had to say was that it's Claire Patterson was trying to figure out how old the Earth is, basically, and when he tried to do this by measuring lead in an old meteorite, he found that he was getting really different readings. So he realized that this was because the lead from gasoline fumes was interfering with his work, and basically thanks to his efforts, we have managed to actually ban lead in gasoline, in paints, and in other things. So environmental physics is important, even if it's an upcoming field. It's the need of the hour, basically. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, second speaker from the opposition. I request third speaker from the proposition to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, let's start. Hello.
Hello, Avantika.
Yeah, you can start. I'll start as you speak.
Okay. So तो लाइक मुझे ये पूरे डिबेट का मेन पॉइंट ये लग रहा है कि लाइक वी आर फाइटिंग लाइक एनवायरमेंटल फिजिक्स बेटर है कि एस्ट्रोफिजिक्स बेटर है. द डिबेट वाज एस्ट्रोफिजिक्स करंटली इंपॉर्टेंट है कि नहीं. एंड और लाइक अपोजिशन मेनली इज फोकसिंग ऑन एनवायरमेंटल फिजिक्स. एनवायरमेंटल तो लाइक उन्होंने एक्सप्लेन भी नहीं किया व्हाट इज एनवायरमेंटल फिजिक्स, व्हाट डज इट डू टू सॉल्व दीज प्रॉब्लम्स एंड हाउ इज इट रिलेटेड टू फिजिक्स एट ऑल. लाइक एनवायरमेंट वाज द इशू बिफोर एज वेल. लाइक अगर वॉल्केनिक इरप्शन हुआ तो लाइक बिफोर इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन देयर वाज नो वॉल्केनिक इरप्शन और व्हाट. और like there was no need, what if an asteroid strikes the earth, so like what will we do, what are the methods we have devised to like उनसे अपोज करे, like asteroids को कैसे रोक सकते हैं हम. तो like we have to search for other planets where we can continue the human evolution. Future problems are only defined by present problems. As we know, one of the speaker mentioned that past is to learn from. Past से हमको सीखना चाहिए, but like we are all हमने यही तो सीखा, like इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन की वजह से बहुत प्रॉब्लम हुआ. तो like अब वो प्रॉब्लम like बहुत ज़्यादा हो चुका है और हमको like उससे फाइट करना है. तो हम वो फाइट जीत ही नहीं सकते. वो फाइट क्यों लड़ना है जो हम जीत ही नहीं सकते. So we have to take the measures to approach those problems as well. And talking about astrophysics, like what are the uses of it? Most of the Oliver and the first speaker mentioned that astrophysics like uska use bahut kam hai, and they mention many points. So like how do we predict the weather? वेदर को कैसे प्रेडिक्ट करेंगे बिना एस्ट्रोफिजिक्स के. एंड मेनी ऑफ द लॉज जो फिजिक्स में यूज हो रहे हैं वो एस्ट्रोफिजिकल फेनोमिनस को देख के ही डिवाइस किए गए, वरना वो डिस्कवर नहीं होते. लाइक ग्रेविटेशनल रिलेटिविटी ले लो, ग्रेविटेशनल न्यूटन का ग्रेविटेशनल फॉर्मूला ले लो, और लाइक मॉडर्न डिवाइसेस को कंसिडर कर लो. मॉडर्न डिवाइसेस जो बन रहे हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल एमआरआई मशीन, रेडियो एस्ट्रोनॉमी का पूरा फील्ड है. और ये सब में लाइक आफ्टर वी डिस्कवर्ड रेडियो वेव्स देन वी डिवाइस, तब हमको पता चला कि लाइक रेडियो वेव्स भी होते हैं, तो हमने उनके रिलेटेड मशीन्स बनाए. नेविगेशन में जीपीएस का यूज़ है, तो वो जीपीएस एक्यूरेट नहीं होता अगर हम लोग एस्ट्रोफिजिक्स अर्थ और मून का मोशंस अगर स्टडी नहीं करते. तो लाइक जीपीएस कैसे वर्क करता है वो एक्यूरेट नहीं होता. कम्युनिकेशन, सैटेलाइट्स अगर हम नहीं बनाते तो कम्युनिकेशन वर्क नहीं करता. Like there are many uses. Astrophysics is like the most important right now, क्योंकि हमको भी like we have to think about the future as well. And first speaker ने mention किया था कि like astrophysics PO आया था शायद. Astrophysics like derivative है बाकी physics का, first या second speaker ने. So like baki physics, I can say like rest of the physics is the derivative of astrophysics, because many laws have been discovered after studying the phenomena. Like for example, we can take Saha equation, we can take Maxwell-Boltzmann equation, Wien's displacement law, and black body radiations. All that stuff that came about, we know that because of the astrophysics. And we have to study astrophysics much more. We have to give it more importance, because like जैसे कि पहले भी अभी तक डिवाइसेस डिस्कवर होते गए हैं. हम लोग जो चीज़ नई डिस्कवर होती है तो हम लोग लाइक उसके लिए, उसको स्टडी करने के लिए हम लोग फिजिक्स को इम्प्रूव करते हैं. तो फिजिक्स विल इम्प्रूव अगर हम एस्ट्रोफिजिक्स को ज़्यादा प्रेफरेंस देंगे. तो that's how it has been up till now, and that's how it will continue from here on. Thank you. You can stop the time.
Thank you, third speaker from the government. I request the third speaker from the opposition to start.
Am I audible?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I'll tell you. Start then. 3, 2, 1. Now, I would like to point out that the government pointed out a lot of important breakthroughs in astrophysics. Of course, but this topic is not about breakthroughs. As our first speaker pointed out, throughout history, it has been the people and the conditions that they are in that determined what subject took precedence over every. To expand on his example, the Germans invested in chemistry to get the best chemical weapons out of it. The US created and invested in NASA to make good on its promise to send mankind to the moon. Need of the R is environmental physics. The funneling of resources won't stop unless satisfactory breakthroughs have been made. So basically, what counts is the very necessity of the subject. And then from there, it is important till it achieves its goal. Tackling climate change. Like our second speaker pointed out, there was a period of utter negligence towards the cause, and only very recently this field has started gaining momentum. Even though we have had some yay moment, we are far from major breakthroughs, and the interest and diversion of resources to this field won't stop unless we get that. So brace yourself. This is the necessary field of the R, and it is here to stay for a long time now. Now, till now, both of our speakers have not only refuted the idea of astrophysics being the most important subject in physics, but they also gave the answer to a question which was, if not this, then what is it? And the answer clearly is environmental physics. And it is not just us who are saying that. Let me point out what our first speaker stated. He talked about backlash received by the billionaire space race. The fact that so much money was being spent on this didn't sit right with the people. And I would urge the judges and the audience to remember how they felt about the subject and how the world was reacting to it as well. By that, I wish to point out what we all know, that environmental physics is an important subject right now. It is the most important subject right now, and it is clearly now sinking in. Now, coming to the point that the speaker one made, he talked about there isn't much to provide us with from environmental physics. Our second speaker clearly refuted that point. We have talked about what all we can provide from environmental physics and what environmental physics, where all it can find its applications in. Now, he also stated that the next big crisis won't be in a decade. Well, you clearly are not reading newspapers. Case in point, the very currently going famine in the Mediterranean, the floods in China, the bushfires, the forest fires. What about those? And then let's come to the points that the speaker two made. He talked about how astrophysics has been inspiring, etc., etc. Well, every field has inspired someone or the other. Nobody takes any field just because I mean, if you're taking any field, you better be inspired by it, is what I'm trying to say. Now, how will he also talked about dark matter. Now, please tell me, how will the dark matter save our planet? And please explain it to I would have asked to explain in your rebuttal, but your rebuttal is already done. So I would have also asked how it is relevant to our present need and necessity, but the time is done. Now, do you realize, also there was a point where...
POI?
Yeah, go ahead.
What is the physics in environmental physics that is important to us right now?
Oh, I'm coming to that. So one of the POI that you all asked, which was passed on to me, is that environmental physics, you will need biology for that. Are you forgetting that environmental physics is actually study of organism, etc. And without biology, you're not going to study that. Without chemistry, you're not going to study that. Without atmospheric sciences, you're not going to study that. I mean, it is that all-encompassing field. And moreover, you are going to find environmental specialists everywhere. But, for example, you're going to find an environmental specialist in a clothing store brand, but you're not going to find an astrophysicist specialist there. Now, Speaker 3 also said that we didn't define a topic. We clearly did define a topic. You might not have listened to it. And it also saying that he has given up on our Earth. And he is thinking that maybe in a decade when the Earth would be gone, he would be living on Mars. Well, let me tell you, to create an atmosphere on Mars, it will take you at least 100 years. Where will you live till then? I just want to end it by saying that all of the points that you have made have been weak. I mean, you have only defined the breakthrough moments of astrophysics, but you are not trying to tell how it is relevant to this topic, to this time. Now, I would like to end it with a final note. On a final note, if we were in the time of Cold War, when the USSR and the US were having the space race, and they were racing to who will get to the moon first, that time debating over whether astrophysics was the most important subject for that time would have been futile, since it was for that time. But the times have changed, and now the need is for another subject, and that is environmental physics. Thank you.
Thank you, third speaker from the opposition. I request a reply speech from the opposition.
Yep, I'm the first speaker from side opposition, and I'll be giving the reply speeches. Am I audible?
By the way, point. Why wasn't I reminded about the time?
Well,
Because
that
it
you
was
have to see.
No.
We mentioned, you'll be
Yeah.
seeing.
Yeah, because it was on the screen. We had decided not
Okay,
to.
sorry. Fine, I didn't see it. Sorry.
All right. I'll request to be reminded about the time, please, if that's feasible.
Okay, when do you want me to remind?
10 seconds before the time ends.
Oh, okay. Wait, Avantika, Asha is saying something.
Avantika, no. Like if we've not reminded any of the 6 speakers, I don't think it's fair to give reminders right
Fair
now.
enough.
Please look at the screen, pin it to your screen, do whatever you need to do, but be mindful.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough. Yep, I'll give you a short countdown before I'm about to begin. So just give me a second. All right, I'll begin in 3, 2, 1. We'll give you the reply speech in this format that we did already yesterday. We'll tell you about what we said. We'll tell you about the points we made, the arguments we stated. We'll tell you about the arguments stated by side government, the things they said, which we found important and that we should have considered. We'll compare the clashes where we came face to face, and then we'll tell you how we clearly take it over side government with all the arguments that we presented. And the first speaker goes on to say that most of the subjects have saturated. There is more to provide from astrophysics. He tells us that we need to understand more about the world around us. He tells us that EVS would have been useful in 20th century. I don't know why we are still studying it. Pretty weird. I guess you should understand that. They talk about crises already having begun. They talk about, we need to take care of our homes, right? They don't even actually care about that. They just say that it is time for us to look for the new home. I don't know why. Then they say we don't have to worry about the future right now. When I ask them the question that, what will you do on Mars to create an environment? They say that we'll think about it then. We don't need to think about it right now. But all of those ideas and the approaches that you give were actually futuristic in nature. So I don't know how you try to counter yourself by saying that. They say that astrophysics makes us understand everything around us, and most of the questions are only answered by astrophysics that are present. All right. The second speaker says that we need to be prepared for now. We need to be prepared to shift to another planet now, and we shouldn't be very late for that. Then they say that they talk about dark matter related studies. They don't actually explain to the audience or the judges how that makes any sense in this debate. The status quo never talks about dark matter being a part of this debate. All right. Then they talk about any other branch other than astrophysics has all the answers, all the questions answered, and only astrophysics is the ones that has not answered the questions that are present. All right. The only problem that I have with this is the entire argument is that only astrophysics has the answers to the question of space. It's cool. How will anything else have the answers to that question, the question about space? It is your burden to do that. But you forget that physics is more than just space. Your entire argument has been based on the fact that physics is space, space, space. What about the Earth that you are living in? Physics is more than just space, rockets, dark matter, and space races in the current scenario that we are living in. All right. The agenda is astrophysics is the most important field in physics, and not space is the most important field in physics. Physics is more than just space. I'd like to make that very clear to you. Acknowledge the difference between both of them, please. The third speaker goes on to make a very bold statement. Why fight a war which we can't win? ऐसी जंग क्यों लड़े जो जीत ही नहीं जा सकती? सर, इसके लिए मैं ये भी चीज कहना चाहूंगा कि जंग कई बार इसलिए भी लड़ी जाती है ताकि पता चले मैदान में किसी के खिलाफ खड़े होने वाला कोई और भी था. अगर आप जंग लड़ने के लिए खड़े ही नहीं होंगे तो आप कैसे जीतने की कोशिश करेंगे? You haven't stood up to fight the war once, all right? You haven't made any efforts, and you tell me that you won't have to do the same things on Mars to make life habitable there. You won't have to repeat the same things that happened on Earth to make life habitable there. Yeah, right. You ask what is physics and what is the physics and environmental physics? I ask you, is physics all about space, or does anything exist on Earth that you derived your principles from? It seems that you tend to forget the apple fell on Newton's head on Earth and not Mars. And all of the F equals to ma principles began on Earth. So therefore, I'd like to end my speech here, and we feel we clearly take it over side government. Thank you.
Thank you for opposition. Now I request a reply speech from the government.
Okay, I'm the first speaker and I'll give the reply speech. So yeah, the opposition clearly made it as astrophysics versus environmental physics, and they kept on talking about why we are only talking about space. Well, I can't talk about anything else when I'm talking about astrophysics because the word itself only deals with that. But coming to environmental physics again, throughout the debate, I was just sitting here waiting for opposition to tell me why environmental physics is physics. So they kept talking about how environment is so important and that we have to take action, but we don't have to take that action through physics. That's what I was trying to say and ask. How does it become environmental physics? What physics do we need to clean our planet? What physics do we use for that? What physics do we use to make our home better? It's a completely different subject. Environmental physics is a very small, a very niche part of it that they have just taken in order to use the name of environment to just have a very hot topic. But it is just not true. You are just using a subject that is a very small part that doesn't even help environment. It just has a small study of environment in a way that involves physics. It doesn't help to better the environment or our home in any way. So that was our point. Our point wasn't to have a completely abandon our home. Our point was that environmental physics cannot fight the war. So why fight a war? This is a war that has already been lost because you aren't fighting it with a sword. You are fighting it with a needle. That's the thing. And so why even fight the war with a needle? Just do something that will give you another option, and that option is provided by astrophysics. We need a new home now. They said that when I said that the next big crisis might be a few decades away, and it was pointed that all the crises are here. Well, thank you. You just made my point easier. All the crises are already here. There's no point in fighting them right now. We have to find a way out of it. Okay, we can't waste our energy on fighting that has already been lost. So throughout this debate, all I wanted to say was they kept using environmental physics, and we kept telling that how astrophysics is a way for us to go into the future. This is the time to think about our future. This is the present that has been pointed by opposition, that present is important. This is the time when we think about it, not when it has already passed, like with environmental stuff. We started thinking about it now when the time has already passed, and now we see that all the crisis already upon us. This is why astrophysics is most important, because we need to think about it now. Otherwise, even astrophysics wouldn't be able to save us from God knows what crisis is coming for us. Well, thank you.
Thank you for the reply speech of the government.
Judges,
Okay.
I have made the link. Join there.
Yeah, please join there.
Out of the methods considered for choosing a winners and everything, we did not reach to a proper conclusion, and we still want more clarification. So for that matter, we just devised another thing. I hope all the participants are here. Is any team lacking any participants?
No, sir.
No.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. So, of course, you have had roughly 10 minutes since the debate ended, and I hope you all have discussed properly amongst yourselves or with the audience, or responded on your own what went wrong, what went right, what more could have been addressed, and the things that we addressed already, where they all was that all right or all fine. So I know you. I hope you have already done that. So since it's kind of a tiebreaker round for us right now, and I swear it was not predestined as a tiebreaker. It just happened. We require you to prepare again. You should you both of you both the teams know what they couldn't address, and we won't tell you what you didn't address. Of course, we'll give the feedback later on. But as the teams know what they couldn't address and whatever they felt was lacking, I leave that to your own wisdom. But you need to give us a 3-minute speech from each team. Select a person, convince the judges, not convince us why you should win on anything, on your motion, and in that you all address what you could not address in your arguments, and after that we'll come back just for that. And Ashia, could you let them know the time they have to prepare?
Okay, so we'll give you 5 minutes. Use your WhatsApp within your groups. Decide which of you would be making this 3-minute speech, and be very mindful about the time this time. We are not going to remind you. The timer will be on screen. 3 minutes, 20 seconds maximum. Like 20 seconds is your grace period. After 3 minutes, 20 seconds, whatever you say, we are not going to be paying any attention to it. So right now the time is 9:06. Please come back by 9:11. No, actually no, 9:15.
15.
Yeah, 9:15, and we'll have 3-minute speech from the government and opposition. Cool. Bye, guys.
Do you have any doubts?
Yeah, like, do you have any doubts? Because
Oh my God, why the hell is
That's
this
a good
happening?
that's a good doubt. I understand. But anything else?
no,
Please
tell you,
tell me the time again.
9:15.
9:15. ठीक है,
come
ठीक है.
back by 9:15. Like you guys should be here by 9. I mean, you don't need to leave because I've asked you to discuss on your WhatsApp groups.
Okay.
Just decide who will speak, and what you will speak is put it on the WhatsApp itself or on the Google Doc that was provided to you. And 3 minutes. 3 minutes,
Okay.
20
Okay.
seconds
Okay.
is how much.
Bye.
Bye.
Participants there, and the
Guys.
session is also recorded, na? So again, recording stop. Again, go there.
Prismatic pulsars go first. CDM, please leave. Prismatic pulsars third. Whoever is gonna speak, 3 minutes, please. Be ready.
Yeah, and there is an honor code. I
Avantika?
hope the audience doesn't divulge any information to the other team or anything. So don't worry about that.
Yeah, I'm here.
Let me just see. There is here. Let me just. Yeah. Okay. No CDM here. Yeah.
Okay, give me a minute. I'll just. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, the timer will begin with your first word.
Just a second.
Avantika, note that. And we will not give you any indications. Look at the screen.
Yeah.
3 minutes. Wrap it up within 20 seconds.
Yeah.
We'll stop you after the 20th seconds, please, because we don't have time now. Sorry.
Yes. Just a second. Just a minute. Okay, I'll start now. So the entire debate was about proving that astrophysics is the most important field in physics. Because of our opponents, it was turned more into a battle between astrophysics and environmental physics, and we were again and again thrashed for saying that we kept talking about space and not Earth, while the opposition kept forgetting that Earth is a part of the space. Then again, the whole point was what gives you importance at this moment. When we think of years before now, quite a few years before now, when environment didn't seem like a huge issue, So people had different problems. People focused on electrodynamics, people focused on thermodynamics. Then no one cared about a subject like environmental physics or biophysics. And look where it has brought us. It has brought us on the verge of, okay, it might be a strong word, but in a few years it might even come true. It has brought us on the verge of an apocalypse. So this is what we need to learn, that if we delay something way too far, just saying, oh no, this is too futuristic, we don't need to think about it now, let's just think about the present. It's the present that matters. It's the field that gives importance in physics, that's more important. That is a very, very big issue, and that is why astrophysics is a very important field right now. It is now that we need to progress. It is now that we need to make strides of progress into the unknown world around us to get to know what we are stepping into. This is the time that we start investing into the future, because this future doesn't just secure our future, but it secures our present. That's what we need to understand, and that is understood by all the major physicists in the world. Yeah, sure, one or two environmental physicists got a Nobel Prize. That doesn't show anything at all. What matters is what the physicists are working on. There are so many people tirelessly working in the field of astrophysics, tirelessly trying to have new models, because this is the need. This is the most important thing to work on right now. And I think we have given very hard emphasis on it, that everyone knows, all the physicists know, we see it all around us, all the projects that take place. It is astrophysics that is a very important part of physics, and not some other part of other physics like environmental physics or biophysics, parts or fields that are hardly even physics. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Pinak. Saurabh, can you put a message on the group and ask the three
Okay,
CDMs
yeah, sure,
to
sure.
return?
In the meantime, prismatic guys, leave the meet.
No, let
Can you
them be
just
here now. They can't
Yeah,
see
they
you.
can be
Yeah.
here now.
Okay, yeah. But then I don't want them to be dark matter to be livid. कि अरे भाई ये तो यहीं पर है.
No, it's
We have to leave.
हाँ.
no,
No,
stay
no,
here.
stay.
They
can't
can't
believe that.
But
they can't do.
साइकोलॉजिकल इफेक्ट तो नहीं, इतना नहीं करना चाहिए उनको, कोई
वही
बात
तो।
नहीं.
Okay.
You guys are assuming too much self-importance, prismatic pulsars. You're thinking that your presence is merely affecting the kuch nahi.
I love the confidence.
Dark matter doesn't affect everything around it, but a pulsar does.
Man, I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, astrophysics वाली बात.
All right. From CDM, who is your speaker?
Hi, Harshit Singh. I'll
Harshit.
go first. Yeah.
First, you're the only speaker going to
Yeah, my bad. I'm just messing
Okay.
up. So sorry.
You got this, Harshit. You got this.
3 minutes,
That's so sorry.
20 seconds to wrap up. If you
All right.
please don't overshoot time, maybe please. Thank you. Continue.
Thank you so much. I'll try my best. I'll give you a short countdown where I'm about to begin. So yeah. Yep. 3, 2, 1. So because we know that there was a split between the decision of what the two judges might have thought. So to the judges who thought that we won, I'll reiterate why we won, and to the judges who thought that we didn't win, I'll tell you where we messed up and where we could have added a few things. So first, I'd like to start this with the negative points where we could have done better. Because of the POI that was asked to me, that I was the first speaker, I kind of messed up and didn't give the proper definition. So the proper definition that I could have given that would have helped my stance in also telling me where physics was important was I could have said that that environmental physics is the application of principles of physics to the problems in the natural and the man-made environment. What the other issue that we had here was we didn't engage with them on the issues we later on realized that could have been important. It was that the first thing that I actually questioned that back then as well was that physics, they made physics all about space, and they didn't want to engage with what was existing in the current scenario. Like we mentioned a lot many things in the current scenario, but they didn't want to do that. Importance was not defined. Importance was not defined in the sense that they didn't give the generation for which importance mean here, right? Like importance is different in the present scenario, and importance could be different in the other scenarios. And their entire focus was on making another planet habitable, which is a thing which is far from our reach. So these were the things you could have counted. This is what I'm saying. So this is an idea which would take thousands of years to happen. And we are trying to leave this planet because 10 years later, another environmental crisis is going to happen. So for the remainder of the time, that is between 10 years and 2000 years, they don't tell us how we need to tackle the problems that we'll be facing, for which environmental physics will be very, very important. They also don't clash with us in telling us, that what will be important for us to make life habitable on Mars. That would take a lot of time. So at any point of time, all they talk about is space, and even if they talk about space, they talk about the future. They don't at all engage with us in the present. They clearly abandon the fact that we are from this planet, and at some point of time, they need to realize the fact that you need to do something here before you try to go there. Because if you don't survive here as well, right? 50 years stuck, if you wanna ignore the problems and think of a 200 years Baad ka plan, then how will you be able to execute 200 years Baad ka plan if you simply die? They also don't tell me, we clearly ask these questions, but they didn't engage with us on the fact that the things that were done on Earth to make life habitable and well function for us, like the Industrial Revolution, which they clearly pointed out, they don't simply engage with us on the fact that you will also need to do that on other planets. So they also did answer the question that will you be abandoning the same planet? This isn't a jumping theory where you simply jump from one planet to the other to find alternatives. What this is that importance you had to define for which generation it is important, and you had to engage with us in the entire aspect of physics, which we did and which they clearly didn't. They only focused on space, and that was the future and not the present. That is why we believe we take it over them. So I'll end my speech here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cryptic Dark Matter. Adi, Chintan, we'll go back to the meet, okay? The HNB wala meet.
Yeah, could you just send the link again?
1 second.
Yeah, sure. Just a second.
The narrowed down mentality that both the teams looked at the topics, at the motion trump. Like maybe we really feel you could have explored more of astrophysics, explored more of other physics. That could have been, not just, maybe I feel the opposition's case would have been stronger if they had not concentrated on just environmental physics, because that environmental physics was shot down completely. And maybe if you had come up with at least 3 other alternatives, other fields which are important at the moment. And also one more thing, somehow I remember this, I don't know which site said it, somebody asked about why biology, why not biology? Topic dekho bhai, in physics, why are you talking about biology or chemistry anyway? So yeah, so there were a lot of, those were the concerns that we found out, and why we requested for a tiebreaker was because 2 of us initially, if we looked at individual scores, like first we look at individual scores, like Chintan will calculate the total and Chintan will tell me who is leading in his data. I'll be saying who is leading in my data, and Aditya will be saying who is leading in his data. So when we looked that way, 2 people had the same team leading, whereas the third person had a different team leading. Then we calculated the totals, like the total scores, Chintan plus Ashya plus Aditya, and then we checked the both, and then the non-majority team was leading then. You get my point? Am I clear? This is the max clear.
I understand how it sounds like. Actually, I'm just jumping in here if you don't
Please
mind.
do. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to clarify a couple of things why this happened. Asha mentioned already that there was a clear problem. There was a clear difference in the points and the presentation, right? So in a debate, both of those things matter. So that's why there was a very close competition, and the points which are divided to the individual participants of each teams were pretty close because according to judging criteria. So what it happened that what it happens such that of course two judges got another team as a winner and one judge got another team as a winner. But when we again, as Ajay said, when we did that grand total of all the three judges, because of all the nuances, what it happened, the scores flipped literally. In the grand total, another team won and the other team lost.
By 1 marks, huh? By just 1 marks.
Yeah, so
And-
which is why it didn't make any sense ki, like we were not sure ki what to choose, judges majority या grand total majority. So which is why we requested for a tiebreaker. I think that's clear right now. Okay, now you might want to know the winners. Wait, before that, Chintan, do you want to add anything? Aditya, did you complete what you had to say?
Just a moment, yeah. So connection cut gaya tha yaar, वापस बताना.
Asha was just saying you
Anything
want to
more?
add anything.
Yeah, is there anything more? I mean, because I had to cut you short to say this particular.
Oh, okay, no, and that is that. And also, I was just talking about subjectivity and objectivity. What we also have, we did calculate while discussing the results was how the motion itself was biased to one position, to one side of the motion. The motion itself was biased. The topic was such. We decided we concluded that as well. So that too was factored in. We will let you know how that impacted the results as well after we give away the results, of course.
Yeah.
So the topic itself, we concluded that it had a little bit bias. So we also factored that in. So yeah, continue. Just give out the results. I'm actually outside. I'm working. Please do the honors, Chintan or Ashia.
Chintan Sena.
Okay.
Now
So
bring a drama in.
it was very close. Like it was very difficult for us to decide. Even like tiebreaker made it a bit clear, like who should win. And the team which won, both the teams did very good. Okay, so no need to be disappointed. Like it is a win-win. We had to conduct an extra round to just separate out who is the winner. So the winner for the repulsion of the House Cup is Prismatic Pulsars.
Woo!
What the hell?
Congrats,
What the
guys.
hell?
Thanks,
You
guys.
did
Okay.
it. You did it.
Now,
What the hell?
now since this thing is here, I would like to say something on the presentation wise. Cryptic Dark Matter did a very good job.
Yes.
Like you guys are great debaters. Cryptic Dark Matters, you're great debaters. But overshooting reduced a lot of your points. Not a lot, a couple of your points actually. Yeah, it did contribute to your low scores.
Yeah.
And but I mean, like you had good points. Like you guys had good points. But when it came to government now, like I felt ki you could have explored so many other aspects of astrophysics. You guys, I don't know why you didn't do that, yeah. Like you talked about dark matter.
Honestly, the thing is, we hadn't prepared for this side much at all. We had prepared really well for against. We so badly wanted to be against. We had so many points in against.
Exactly.
We had very
That's
few
what I was
points.
talking about. I'm so sorry for cutting you off. The thing is, as I said, and there was a bias in the top.
Without further ado, I know you guys have waited a lot. The best speaker for mini-Repulsion is Mohammad Akib Khan.
Oh yes.